Hey everybody, it's Aaron the Pedantic, and today I want to do a video that will hopefully reach some dungeon masters that may be a little bit newer. I want to give some words of wisdom, perhaps. I've just noticed, and this is something that's become a lot more evident just recently because I've recently started engaging on Twitter once more. I'm seeing a lot more people that are not in my usual circles, which my usual circles are primarily comprised of slightly more experienced OSR players. Um, Now that I'm being exposed to people that are not slightly more experienced OSR players, I'm seeing a lot of people that are saying a lot of things that are indicating that they are not doing certain things and that this may be actually severely hurting their game without them even understanding that that is the case. Because how would they know? How does one know? The allegory of the cave comes to mind. You see the images cast on the walls, the shadows cast on the walls, and you think that that is reality because that is all you've experienced. I know it sounds like entire and just terribly, terribly, just bad to put it that way. Like I'm saying that people are ignorant or whatever, but it's a good allegory. It truly is a good allegory because, and I can say that because I was that person. That was me. I am talking to myself in the past. So what steps did I have to do to get to be a better dungeon master? That is what I'm going to be telling you. So there are really three things. They're very easy for the most part, but I think they will help people a lot. Okay, number one, fairly obvious, but as I said, this is something I did not do to begin with, and that is read the Dungeon Master's Guide. Now, when people talk about 5th edition, the 5th edition D&D, they often talk about how the Dungeon Master's Guide really doesn't have a whole lot in it that is terribly useful. And I'm going to kind of agree with it. So what is in the Dungeon Master's Guide? There are things in there that you can use. There are tools. There are tools in there that you can use. There are a lot of things that are missing. Most notably, one of the things that's missing are random encounter charts for monsters by terrain type, which is incredibly important. It's been absolutely left out, and it's a travesty. But what do you have? Well, you do have treasure. You've got treasure in there. You've got random determinations for treasure, so you can roll up treasure. You've got, some basic kind of like wilderness rules-ish, kind of. You've got some little toggles here and there. Here's for like a more gritty fantasy. Here's for if you want to have, like magic items be something that you can craft. Here's some rules for that. Here's different way to do proficiency. You can do the proficiency die, which by the way, I actually think is pretty cool. There are those options in the DMG. Other than that, there's a lot of like just world building and how to create a villain that wants something. And that's, take it or leave it. Most of us can really figure this out just on our own. Most of us, there's some tools there that are kind of useful. There is a random, a way to roll up random dungeons. It does exist in there and it doesn't seem terrible. So, there's some stuff in there. Are you really going to learn that much from that DMG? I don't think so. I think that one of the strongest things that I have done, one of the things that has made me such a better DM, other than just experience, is reading the 1st edition DMG. That thing put into context so many things that I had noticed, and I wonder why this never seems to feel quite right. And a lot of it is that it takes a lot of experience. And so having somebody who was there at the forefront of the hobby and was playing all the time, running all the time, and seeing all these problems prop up at a time when they weren't spending a whole ton of time trying to fill everything in with complex stories and plots and, vivid characters and vistas and all that. When instead where they were often focusing on just crazy ass dungeons and going through them, it shouldn't be any surprise that they were coming up with all kinds of solutions and all kinds of ways to make things interesting while focusing on the game mechanics. That should be obvious. And that's exactly what you get in the 1st edition DMG. You get some fantastic wisdom about running the game that you just don't get in the 5th edition DMG. So if you can, read the first edition DMG. It's easy to find online for free, PDF to look at. I don't know how legal it is. I'm not going to recommend that you do that. So I'm going to say buy yourself a copy on eBay, or some kind of equivalent. I was fortunate enough to have a very good friend send me a copy of his physical, one of his physical copies, and then I ended up buying the rest of the AD&D books online. I think you can get some print on demands, but it is incredibly valuable. There's so much wisdom packed in there. Please read it. Please read it. Your game will get better if you read it and then you actually consider what it's being said and then run the game more. Your game will get better. Okay. The other thing, very related. The second thing is very related to it. Run some modules. There are a lot of DMs that don't run modules. They do not even read modules. They've never read a module. They don't care about modules. They have their own particular homebrew. That's what they want to do. They want to run their homebrew. They want to do their plot because their plot is really cool. And the players are really lucky to be on that journey with them because it's awesome. The problem is, modules are really pretty helpful. They're helpful in a way that they contextualize a lot of that wisdom that I was talking about that people get from running the game. Now, some people are just really good at writing modules. Some people are really bad at writing modules. We had Janelle Jaquays, one of the most lauded, dungeon creators in D&D history, being someone who, started writing fantastic dungeons almost right out the gate. From what I understand, it does happen. But the thing is that people have found things that work well and they have put them on paper and they have, taken a lot of time to come up with ways to make it exciting, how to pack dungeons with factions and really cool traps and just all the tools that you need in order to run a good dungeon or a good city even. Or to have a city that has a lot of things to do in it. People have taken the time to create that stuff, and a lot of it is really good. A lot of it is a lot better than what a lot of people are doing for their homebrew stuff. Now, I'm not saying that homebrew is bad. I do a lot of homebrew myself. So the very first thing that I actually ran was the starter kit, the 5e starter kit. And that's actually pretty good. It has a lot of pretty good stuff in there. You can learn how to create a dungeon, a rather sizable one. You can learn about random encounter charts. You can see a lot of things in play there. It's actually made to be played. It's good stuff. But there are other ones that are better in some ways because they are going to incorporate a lot more general advice, a lot more just focusing on the game elements in really cool ways. And some of them are just thematically a lot cooler. Some of them are spicier. I love a lot of the Lamentations adventures because they incorporate themes and creatures and magics that are very weird. And because of that, they're a lot of fun. So the second one is for people to read some modules and run them. I think that will make things a lot better. I have learned a heck of a lot from different modules, whether it was from Jim Radji's, which I know that's a weird name to bring up first, but Jim Radji's Tower of the Stargazer is a fantastic, like classic D&D dungeon for the most part, with a few little weird fantasy twists here and there. But for the most part, just a fantastic magic user's tower. It's awesome. It's really, really cool. If any of you have things like the Village of Hamlet, T1, which is probably one of the finest things that you can start with. Some people might say keep on the Borderlands. That may be true. I have a personal affinity for the Village of Hamlet. There's just so much there that you can pull from, so much that you can learn, and they are amazing. They are amazing. They will make things better. They have made me a lot better at doing this. I was always really good at creating cool places with cool things to do, but I was never able to contextualize those things as mechanically and with as much consideration as they are presented in these modules by people that have been doing this for a lot longer than me. So that is what you get there. You get some compressed wisdom put on the page, ready to be played with. And that is something that people should utilize a lot more, I think. I think their games would be much more. The third thing and last thing, and I won't spend way too much time on it, that is for DMs to make promises about what the adventure is. So what I mean by that is that the last thing that you want is for the players to not know what they're doing. They need to believe in the stuff that they are working on. They need to have a goal, and they need to be on that goal. So this does not mean that sandbox play is bad. In fact, quite the opposite. In sandbox play, they decide from one moment to the next what their goal is, and they go tackle it together. This is more for the games that are primarily following what the DM has prepped. Now, even in a sandbox game, you're following what the DM has prepped. It's just sometimes they might have to say, oh, okay, that's not ready yet. Give me till next week. I'll have that ready next week. So if y'all want to continue on that, then we're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to call it here. That may happen in a sandbox game. But in these kinds of games, the way that it is played is usually kind of like, well, the DM gives us a quest, and we go on that quest. And maybe there's a little side thing here or there that's thrown up that we may or may not do. But for the most part, we're on a quest. There's something that we're gonna get to at some point. The problem is that when we are experiencing that in fiction, one of the things that makes us really love it in fiction is that we are given a promise about what that is. Whether that is, cutting to the Dark Lord in his tower and he's doing some terrible thing. It could be at the beginning of Star Wars, whenever you see who Darth Vader is, you see what a bad guy he is, and that Alderaan is destroyed, spoilers. And all that. And you realize that, okay, there's a promise being made here that we're going to maybe see somebody rescue this princess and maybe take that guy down a peg or two. If we're lucky, maybe they'll kill him or something. That is the promise that is made. And that is the thing where us as viewers in Star Wars, we are watching and we are waiting to get to see, does that happen? Does that happen? Do we get to see that? Oh, that's really cool. Really cool. I want to see it happen. Because now I start caring about what's going on here. That princess, she seemed like a very cool person. And then now we meet Luke, and there's this whole thing about, figuring out all this stuff and, blah, blah, blah. He wants to go out and see the stars. Does he get to do that? Those are promises. Those are promises that we kind of follow along on, that we get interested on. One of the problems with some games is that some games, if they are entirely driven by the DM and not the players, is that they may not know what the promise is. And so because of that, they don't care. They have to kind of have some idea of what they're going to be getting interested in if they're going to care. And it gives them a lot of ways to get into things. So one of the best things to do is to put it in front of them. Just show them. Just show them, what is this going to be? What is this adventure going to be about? You have the bad guys, goons, do something terrible. You see the people's misfortune because of that. And so that makes them want to go deal with them. And then you flood them with information, not flood necessarily. You give them a few different sources of information that they will probably find for themselves, hopefully. And if not, then players, you need to learn to go hit up taverns. Go to the tavern and pay the dadgum bartender. Okay? Pay some people in the tavern. They'll give you rumors. You'll learn what you can be doing, okay? To move things along. But they need to be able to get information so they can start making their own goals that all goes toward the big goal that's in mind. That is one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle on, is that they don't give players the opportunity to be proactive because they don't give them information. If the players don't know what their overall goal is, they don't know that they're supposed to be working toward it. So instead, what ends up happening is they're just following breadcrumb after breadcrumb. And that means that they are not as invested as they could be. They may not be that invested at all. They may be just kind of like having as much fun as they can in the situation that they're given. And oftentimes the DM may be none the wiser. That can absolutely happen. So this is something that I have done before. This is why whenever I do anything that I know is going to be very, very linear, if it's going to be very linear, I give them the promise. Even if it's out of character, even if I'm telling the players, hey, look, this is what the adventure is. And this is not terribly uncommon. People end up doing this a lot. You ever played Curse of Strahd or, Ravenloft or whatever? If you're doing that, then they know, hey, this is Curse of Strahd. We're going to go kill Strahd. That is our goal. That is a thing that we are here to do. In a lot of adventures, it might be that, you're stuck in a place. So the implied promise is that you're going to find a way to get out. So they are going to be doing things to try and find a way to get out. But you need to get them to a point where they have goals. They have to have some overarching goal that is leading them to the destination. Otherwise, they are just following the breadcrumbs, and they're probably not all that interested. So those are the three things. There are a lot more, I'm sure, a lot more that could really help DMs, and I've spent a lot of time talking about those kinds of things. So please, in the comments, give me more. Let me take credit for them. Actually, I probably won't do that. Probably. I don't think I will. I say that because the reason is because I'm very absent-minded, and I may read it, and then it may go into the old thing, but then the bibliography is like, oh wait, this is a novel idea. You've never heard it before in your life. Good job, Aaron. That may happen. So anyway, thank you all so much for your time. I hope this was useful. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Play lots of games, and take care of yourselves. Peace.